Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. Now, if you listen to our show, what we love to do is I take an individual horror film from different subgenres and different decades, and me and special guests will kind of sit down, discuss the film, have a conversation about the film, just to get into all the things that make this film a good film, a bad film, an ugly film. It doesn't matter to us because any type of film in the horror genre will be entertaining for us. And we hope that by listening to our podcast, they'll be entertaining for you as well. So without further ado, we're going to get to the title of the film and my special guest, because you know what today is. We are celebrating St. Patrick's Day in style by what else? Exploring another Leprechaun movie. Yes, everybody, if you've listened to our previous episodes on the franchise films of Leprechaun, we are now officially on Leprechaun 4 in space from 1996, and who's returning to talk more about even more Leprechaun craziness. I have Mr. Dave Watkins with me today. Dave, I want to thank you for joining me on this craziness that is the Leprechaun films and St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day. It's good to be here, fourth time in a row. This will be a good one.
This will be a good one.
This is everyone's favorite Leprechaun film, I assume.
We do know that there are a lot of you out there that may have or may not have seen this film. So please, if you really don't want any spoilers, and there's not really many of them, to be honest with you, just stop this program, go watch the film, and then come back and listen to us. Otherwise, just sit back, relax, and enjoy this podcast episode with a nice pint of beer or your favorite alcoholic beverage, and we're going to get this St. Patrick's Day started, okay? So, with this film being Leprechaun 4 in the Hood, nope, that's number 5. This is In Space. See, I'm already getting everybody.
Man, you're excited about that one, aren't you? That's the next one.
I am a little bit excited about that one. But before we get to that one, let's talk about this one. In Space. Dave, I have to know, when did you see this film, and what were your kind of general impressions when you first saw it?
So, if I'm not mistaken, I think the first I was aware of the film before seeing it somewhat, but first time I really saw it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and they were doing like a Leprechaun marathon. And it was kind of cool though. I remember thinking it was really dumb before that, but I didn't pick it up from the very beginning of it. But I picked it up maybe like 20 minutes in or something. But I was like, as I was watching on the Sci-Fi Channel, St. Patrick's Day marathon thing they were doing, I found it like a lot more fun than I thought it would be. And it was, especially like some of it is really goofy, over the top, but it has a lot of flair to it. Now I got a lot of bad stuff to say about this film as well, but that's kind of how my impressions went. Like I thought it was the dumbest shit ever. Okay, this is kind of fun. They're having fun with this film.
So I saw this movie when it originally came out in '96. I had actually been watching the progression of this franchise as it came out. I was always a big fan of the first one. And the reason why I stuck with this franchise for as long as I did, and this is the last one I saw when it originally came out. The subsequent films I did not watch when they came out. I kind of watched those much later.
This was direct to video. I think it was
direct to video.
I think the first two were theatrical releases. This one was the one before it, yeah. And all the other ones, I believe. I think one of them may have had a brief theatrical release, but
I'm a Warwick Davis fan. Always have been, always will be. So I kind of stuck with this for a long time just because he was in these movies. But seeing this in '96, I have to bring up another film that this made me that reminded me of this film when I saw it. And that's because they borrowed the same freaking ideal from it, which was Critters 4 in Space. That came out in 1992, I believe, and I was a huge fan of that franchise. So when they said this was Leprechaun 4 in Space, I was like, oh shit. I thought they were like following a trend or something. These straight to video films, we're gonna now take the villains of the films and put them in space just because we can.
And of course it was followed by Jason X in 2001. But I do want to say something about Critters 4. Even though it is in space, Critters has always been about aliens.
Yeah.
This was not about aliens. So Critters going to space made sense. Another thing I was thinking about, it's called In Space. So it's kind of that's a joke in itself. And I was thinking, it makes me think about like the History of the World film by Mel Brooks when they do Jews in space, like Jews in space, that sort of thing. So every time it happens, it's just like, Jews in space, or I guess there's been a lot of pulp novels that put things in space, like cowboys in space or
Yeah.
vampires in space. I guess that's kind of where the goofiness comes from. But that's what I was trying to figure out too. Is like what, for some reason I thought there was a lot more of this, but there's only like around this time, I thought there was like everything went to space, including Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers, which they don't. But for some reason, I thought every franchise did it, but it wasn't the case.
I kind of had that impression too for a while there. Don't get me wrong. And I thought the '90s was let's make every franchise go in space for some odd reason. Like that's going to make these franchises more popular.
But there was one other one though. Hellraiser did go to space.
Yes.
In the same year as this.
Bloodline? Was it?
Yeah. But that was like three different stories. One takes place in the past, one in the present, and one in the future on a space station. And it does the exact same formula that this film does.
In space. Okay, yeah. So there you go. That was a trend for some odd reason. Because they're right. Hellraiser probably never should have gone into space.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't have a problem with Hellraiser in space. I didn't like their execution of the space stuff. And really, I liked it the first time I saw it. But upon seeing it and seeing this, seeing even Jason X and maybe Critters, but they're always a ripoff of Alien, the first Alien, or this one's closer to Aliens.
Yes.
And there's always that which is a good formula. It's hard not to like that formula because it's so well done and so well tread.
Well, yeah, because you already have your cannon fodder built into the military personnel. So a lot. I mean, it's an easy story structure. I mean, these aren't the only ones. There's lots of low budget films. From the
person 90s. I think the person who loved it the most was Roger Corman. I think he made like 20 movies that were like this. So.
Oh yeah. So that's my story with this one. Like I said, this was the last one I saw when they originally came out. I didn't watch any of the subsequent ones when they originally came out. I tired of this franchise after this, probably because the Leprechaun in this film is not actually called a leprechaun at all. He's called an alien in this film, but he has all the powers and looks and everything of the Leprechaun. So I don't know. I still
I think he is a leprechaun because he has the gold. Now he has the gold that he's still played by Warwick Davis, and like we talked about this before in the other films. I do feel that he's playing a different leprechaun in every film.
Yeah.
And this one has no continuity or ties to any of the others. They're just freestyling it. But
well, that's the thing I do like about the franchise is that they didn't. For these first four films, they were just self-contained stories. They did not connect in any way. Just could be any leprechaun. They all just look like Warwick Davis. Some of the powers, like we've discussed in the previous films, were all different. They changed. With this one, there's a lot of stuff that the leprechaun couldn't do in the previous films that he can't in this one. But the main ones is he just kind of make anything appear and disappear, materialize whenever he wants. He could materialize for wherever he wants. But
yeah, he has a lot of really strong powers. They're unevenly used, and there doesn't seem to have anything to stop him from doing any particular power at a certain time, which makes him very, very dangerous. But it's not consistent what he does.
Yeah, like he was consistent in the other movies either.
No, he's not. But maybe in the first one, maybe it's
first one, I think the first one is pretty damn consistent. But I think after the first one, the writers decided to only take the rules that they liked and then kind of change them all around after that.
Right. It's goofy because he's a small dude, so it's kind of like people think they can just kick him, but this monster is a lot more powerful than you would think, or that most people assume, because But it's just handled in a hokey way. But if it wasn't, this thing would be over like in 5 minutes if he really went to the full extent of his powers.
Well, that's because in this film he likes to use a gun a lot,
Yeah,
which has never been used before. I was like, well, you have powers. Why are
yeah,
you using machine guns and guns throughout this movie? I found it hilarious when I rewatched it. I guarantee you, when I originally saw this movie, I thought it was hokey because the Leprechaun's using machine guns and guns in the movie. Oh, this time I have a little bit more sense of humor, and so I was laughing at the damn thing. It's just so ridiculous.
yeah. And I think that's the same thing I experienced too, where I thought it was not. I thought it was like it just like I like the original Leprechaun pretty good, but I did kind of like the idea of him going into space, but I just thought it was handled kind of odd at first. I thought it was like you were saying. I just couldn't. I was trying to take it serious, but once I realized that you cannot take this movie serious and enjoy it, it's a popcorn film. It's just goofy shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
this film is 110% popcorn lunacy, dude.
Yeah.
You cannot step into this film and actually expect anything to actually be like what normal people or what anybody that would be normal watching this film would actually do or react to, because it's so hokey, it's so over the top, and it plays into that. I think that is the only way to truly enjoy this film and the films in this franchise in general. It's just go in saying,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous shit. And you just enjoy how entertaining it is or isn't. And Warwick Davis chews on some scenery in these movies.
Yeah. Now everyone assumes that he did a bunch of these, which he did kind of, but he only did two more after this one, and then it
Yeah.
was then so far. I mean, maybe he'll come back for another one, but it's not looking good. But but he did two more, and then they've made two other ones without him.
Yeah.
One of them they did take completely serious, and then the last one they kind of went back to the comedy horror
Yeah.
stuff that they did for most of the rest of the series.
So for all those who are not initiated with this movie in this franchise to begin with, and we're gonna call him a leprechaun, even though the characters in the movie don't call him ever a leprechaun. He's just an alien to them.
He has a name in the credits, Lube Dan the Leprechaun. I don't think they ever call him that in the
No,
movie, but
I don't recall anyone calling him anything other than alien. The alien
yeah,
this, the alien that.
yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I don't like about the film, that it doesn't like it like we're it is a Leprechaun film, and he's got green on for St. Patrick's Day, but there's not a lot. There should have been a lot more Irish folklore tied into this film, and it's like they completely could have done it, but they decided not to,
Yeah.
because it made it harder for them to do it in space. But I don't think there's hardly any Irish folklore other than the gold in this. Most of it is just they're just doing aliens pretty much with
Yeah.
with the leprechaun.
Well, and you bring up a good point. In this film, gold is not necessarily the main motivation for him either. It's
Yeah,
not his princess back until after he's got his princess back. Then he goes for the gold. So even that's a smaller aspect. Whereas in all the other movies, gold is the only thing on his brain.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
this one is it's a lot different. And I'm fine with that. I think that the silliness of this movie is finally hit me now that we've watched the first three over. Silliness is perfectly fine with me now. I
Now,
truly,
the director from the other one did this one as well, from the third one.
did Brian Trenchard Smith do that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I
But
know he's done a lot of low budget horror movies. I
yeah.
can't keep up with what he's done. I just know his name has gone through the ringer with doing the low budget horror movies all over the place. So.
I think the most famous of them that I recognize was Night of the Demons 2, which we talked about, I think, when we talked about the third one. But I really like Night of the Demons 2. It was another direct to video film that I thought was really strong. Is strong. The first one has a lot of charm because it has that 80s charm to it, but I really thought Night of the Demons 2 did kind of step it up a notch.
I'm a little bit of a Night of the Demons fan. I kind of like all of them for different reasons.
Yeah.
Even the remake I actually liked. So
yeah, no, I like the remake too. Yeah. So.
one day, everyone, we will get around to Night of the Demons. I just realized we have not done any of those on our show yet, so we'll have to add that to our show.
Yeah.
But the leprechaun in this film lives on his own planet. I had to write it down because I didn't remember this when I first saw it. Ithacon. So this team of military personnel have traveled to Ithacon to more or less, it's a search and destroy mission for this leprechaun who has been plaguing the solar system and other colonies and stuff. I don't remember any of that when I originally watched this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I just thought this movie was okay, we're going to go save the princess from this leprechaun. That's pretty much about the plot of the movie.
Right. They don't even know about the princess.
They don't even know about
Yeah. He's like, man, he's been screwing with everybody around the galaxy for a long time, and they're just going to go destroy him and have it done with. But we all know that you can't destroy the leprechaun. It's just like you can't do it. But he's out there stealing gold everywhere, I guess, is what he's going to do. But it's kind of an interesting shot. Now before the first shot. Now with this movie,
Asteroid.
yeah, well this movie has some really bad early CGI stuff or any of the exterior of the space shuttle stuff.
Oh,
It
yeah.
looks like a PC or Xbox, early Xbox sort of graphics. So you kind of have to get past that in order to enjoy this. But without those establishing shots, they are even worse than the original Tron, which is actually kind of got a lot of charm left. These are not charming hardly at all. So
This is low budget, buddy.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is low budget.
So he had $1.6 million to shoot this movie, which is in comparison to Jason X, they had 11 to 14 million dollars, and it looks a lot better. It still looks a little hokey, but plus the technology was a little better. It's a few years later. The CGI technology was a little better, so it's still Jason X holds up a lot better, filmmaking wise than this film does. But the first shot of the film after all that hokey stuff outside of the space thing, there's a pretty cool. The inside actually looks really cool. The set deck is great, and it's inside of this shuttle, and there's a Steadicam shot that goes around, and you see it introduces all of the main Marine characters in a really cool shot, and including one of them is played by Debbie Dunning, who was one of the you ever see her on Home Improvement?
I watched, if she was in the first 3 seasons, I've watched her, but I don't.
Yeah. But I mean, she's like the girl on Tool Time. I think she started in the third season, which I do remember seeing her. What's funny, if I didn't, I kind of did the same thing. I stopped watching it after a while too, but I've seen some of the later episodes just years later, and she becomes like a bigger character later on, and they show her more. But she's one of these Marines, one of the more sexualized Marines. She seems to be having a lot of fun. A really odd thing that they do, they're going the camera around, and they go to her, and she's got grenades, and she's like, "Who's hungry?" And she throws grenades in the air. Somebody catches them, and she calls this other dude behind her back, and she throws the grenade to him, and that dude's not even paying attention. And then the main character has to step in and grab the grenade before it. But this is the dumbest thing. Well, who the hell throws grenades to people? And then they even make a comment like, "Hey, guy, you need to pay attention. If that thing hit the ground, we would all exploded." And it's like, okay, well, why was she throwing the grenades?
That's okay.
But this was done in a Steadicam shot, so it had to be choreographed, and her throwing the grenades all done in one shot, and it continues up until the main sergeant guy walks in. He's got a metal plate in his head. He comes in, and the guy's his name's Master Sergeant Metalhead Hooker is the character's name, but very interesting actor Tim. I'm gonna probably mispronounce this, Colsereri, but I did see an interview with him about Full Metal Jacket. I kind of did a deep dive into this a while back. He was originally cast in R. Lee Ermey's drill sergeant part. Did you see that? Anything about that?
No, not him is there. I've seen Full Metal Jacket, but I had not heard about him.
He's still in the movie. He plays the gunner on the ship who's shooting, like, just randomly shooting people down in fields. He's kind of like plays a nutty character, but it's a very interesting story about what happened to him in Full Metal Jacket. He was supposed to play that part. This is a kind of a Stanley Kubrick thing that he did, and he's sitting there in a hotel room for months. He had the part. It was his part, and he's sitting there in hotel rooms for months and months, just getting ready every day, like going over the lines. And meanwhile, Arlie Ermy is like on set as the he's basically the coordinator on set for everybody. And then Stanley Kubrick decided to use him instead because he was so good at what he was doing, because he was going around just kind of like showing the people how to act the way that they were. So
Yeah.
so it's a pretty tragic story for this actor that happened to him. And Stanley Kubrick eventually had to tell him, I guess, or someone else told him, and then he was kind of heartbroken over the whole thing. And then but he did give him the other part in the film. He has a one scene part that was a kind of a consolation for not doing it. But here, in this movie, he kind of gets to do
Yeah.
what he was supposed to do in Full Metal Jacket. He actually comes in and does a very similar scene to it, and the character's kind of similar in a way, even though it's a lot different. But he does get to kind of, in a way, gets to do all that, which is a nice thing to see.
Yeah, well, I would say that his role in this one's much bigger than what he probably would have had the Arlie Ermey's role in Full Metal Jacket. It's just that the Arlie Ermey's entire career was made by that one damn movie.
Yeah,
Because
he was I mean, he was so good, but again, the way that this guy does a good job too. But just the way Arlie Ermey did it in that one, I don't think if this actor had done that, that role would not have been as iconic, and it wouldn't be as remembered, I don't think, as it would have been the way that he did. It was just so in your face and authentic. And this guy would have held back a little bit, but he would have done a solid job. It's just, I don't think it would have been quite as iconic.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you on that one. It's interesting to know that story though.
Yeah, no, I watched a bunch of videos on it. It's a very interesting story, but I don't even remember how I got on that one day, but I watched like his interview. I watched a bunch of other interviews for different people talking about the story. I was like, wow, that's a really messed up story. Yeah.
And when you say Stanley Kubrick, yes, I'm not surprised at all. Kubrick did a lot of unconventional things on his film sets.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Like that.
He apparently took a long time to shoot anything. It was like what you think would like take a day to shoot, he would like take like several weeks, to a month or more just to shoot what you would think would take like maybe a couple of days, and it's just like just keeps going.
He was
the same
a
thing over again. Yeah.
Wouldn't happen in this day and age, unfortunately. A director like that would not be able to sustain a career in this day and age.
There's well, what was the other one? Terrence Malick.
Terrence Malick. Yeah,
he's the only one. He can get away with it. He gets away with it every now and then. He does the same shit,
Yeah, but he used to get away with it. That's why he hasn't done much lately. And when he does movies, they're kind of like now lower end budget movies. Because of the fact that they're not giving them money, because these movies don't make any money. They're beautiful movies.
Yeah, the art movies. Yeah,
yeah, but they're not going to spend the money on that anymore. We don't have those type of studios around. Like, we don't have studios around right now that would put the time and effort to do a Leprechaun 4 and then put it out there, because the market for straight to DVD, VHS films isn't there anymore. When this stuff like this is like you said, a 1 point what million? It's like
$1.6 million.
$1.6 million for a straight to DVD flick. Nowadays, you'd probably see $500,000. If that much.
With that, I think if this movie had a better budget, just like if they had as much as Jason X, I think it would have been a lot better as far as like the production values of it. Because it is lacking in some areas, not all areas, but it is lacking in, especially in the CGI and in some of the deaths. Now, there's some really good prosthetics in this film for the Leprechaun, and his prosthetics are on target. And there's a spider character later in the film that looks really great too.
Yeah,
but it seems like they spent almost all of their resources on that, and some of the really inventive deaths are just like, or more left to imagination, or partially done off screen because of the budget.
Yeah.
Or maybe the censors. I don't know. Maybe the censors, but
well, I do believe that as these films went on, I wouldn't be surprised if the makeup and visual effects were kept to a minimum, and then they had to have those standout moments or characters that they had to do. Obviously, the Warwick Davis makeup probably got better as the films went through. He probably went to extensive hours of makeup the first film, and then they found processes to speed it up because it was taking so long.
Yeah.
The Mitten Spider character that you were referring to, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Yeah, that was pretty damn good for prosthetics,
Yeah.
makeup, visual effects. And thankfully, they didn't use CGI for him. That was
No,
all
no.
practical, so it looks pretty
Yeah.
good.
That would have sucked if they used CGI for that. It would have looked really bad. It would
Yeah,
in this year. I mean, on 1986. But there's one. There's another character in that main group of people that we all know from Return of the Living Dead, and in that was the one we watched the other day, the Friday the 13th
Miguel
part.
A.
Yeah,
Nunez
yeah,
Jr.
yeah. Part five, right? Yeah,
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 I was gonna mention him
yeah,
because I had forgotten he was in this movie because he is this like fourth build character actor who shows up in a lot of stuff, and I forget until I rewatch it. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot
yeah.
he was in this movie.
He has a lot subtler part than he normally has. He usually has a showy part, but here he
Hmm.
plays a lot subtle character who surprisingly is in it a lot more than I remembered him being in it, and he ends up being one of the last people left alive at the end of
Yeah,
it. So
I
he
was
makes
thinking.
it through the film. So
I kept thinking he died too until I
yeah,
realized, oh, I guess he does survive at the end.
yeah. I was glad that he didn't die because it's
Yeah,
cool to sometimes it gets a little much when when you get down to either one, it's either, a lot of movies you get down to one person alive or a couple still alive. And it's a lot better to me when you have a different dynamic than that
yeah.
still alive at the end.
Yeah, there were several people still alive at the end of this one, which is
Yeah.
fine. I was good with that. Yeah, because I was expecting more people. I was like expecting like there to be one or two people alive at the end of this movie, and I'm like, oh, I guess there are more than that to survive this movie because that's how much I had forgotten about the movie.
Right. No, what's weird though is the budget's also like, again, here's another budget thing, but so they're on this shuttle. They're going from a bigger like kind of a shuttle to a planet with a smaller shuttle. I guess it's a kind of a spaceship, and they're going to it with
Dropship.
it. Yeah, but the not necessarily the problem, but the low budget thing comes in because everybody goes on the shuttle except for two people. There's only two people left on the main area, and you were thinking when they're going that this is like a big station with a bunch of people operating it, but no, that it's only everybody goes down to get the leprechaun, and the only people on the station is a doctor and the German pilot. He's a doctor too. He's like a German doctor. Was it Mittenhand?
Yeah, Minthand is the
Yeah,
main doctor who has control over everybody on the ship. He's like the main person, and then the other person who's like his assistant.
see Harold.
Yeah, Harold.
Yeah, pretty
Uh,
funny. But we don't see him for a while. But that's everybody who's left on the ship. When all the Marines leave, and there's nobody else but them on the ship. But we don't know that. I mean, we never think that. But that's just that's an odd thing that that's it. And plus this ship doesn't really have like a cockpit per se. It's I mean, I guess it does in a way, but it's kind of really goofy looking when it finally shows it.
Well, yeah, no one's running this ship. This ship is and they probably got that very close to something like what happens in Aliens when we go to when they're on the ship that's going to the planet. You think that this huge fucking ship. I think I can't remember what that ship is called. Huge fucking ship. And they had when at the very end when they get back to the big ass ship, it seems to be only Sigourney Ripley's character
Yeah.
and no one else running the fucking big ass ship.
Well, yeah, I guess the computer was running it, kind of like a 2001: A Space Odyssey. That I guess that was kind of what was happening. It makes it easier because that way you don't have to have a big crew running the ship. And there's not really. I think Mittenhand's running this. He's part. We find out later he's part machine anyway, but he's
Yeah,
probably running it. But it's not really. Yeah, I don't know. It's not very clear. You don't have
no,
like the Hal character from 2001: A Space Odyssey, or the ship in Alien was also kind of like that. It was kind of like how where it talked to everybody, and it was like an AI that
yeah,
ran the ship. And they don't really dip into that, but it's almost implied that that's what's going on. Now it's implied, but it's almost not. It's like they ignore that. They don't
I
even
think they
care
ignore it.
enough. They don't even care enough to make it at all like believable. It's like,
When the leprechaun gets up there with the ship, the leprechaun is not out of his way killing random crew members because there are no random crew members on
yeah,
this.
yeah. There's some
Uh,
random Marines, but
Just Marines, Marines. Now,
yeah.
yeah. So we've kind of jumped ahead a lot of the story, but just to be clear, on that Ithacon planet, that the Leprechaun has his secret princess that he's trying to wed on that whole in caverns. We don't actually. Do we see this? Do we see the surface very
Oh
little
yeah, yeah.
when
It's
the
actually kind of
soldiers
yeah,
first get
yeah.
there?
Yeah,
And
there's one shot. It's kind of a little hokey. Kind of, and that's something that it reminds me of Stargate. You ever see the show Stargate? Which actually I like that show a lot, but they actually did a lot. It makes me think about just a few years later they were able to pull off something a lot more elaborate than this in a television show on Stargate. But yeah, so there's like they have a set that's some rocks or something for the outside of the planet. Then they also have some. It's a shot that has a, a tracking shot that goes over the planet and all that CGI and it looks really bad and it's lightning. And then the set looks okay. And they're all standing in front of it. And this is an interesting scene. And it's probably, I think, the only scene. There might be one other one where we didn't talk about the doctor character, the Dr. Tina Reeves character who comes in, which I do want to back up and talk about that in a second before after I say this. But she comes in and meets. She's a doctor who's working for Dr. Mittenhand, like an assistant sort of thing. But she's there to get alien species and bring them back to the ship. But there's a scene on the planet right outside of the cavern where she's talking. The two women talk to each other, and they actually have a conversation. And so that's really the only time you see the two women talk to each other, which was an interesting thing. And then she's kind of like the Debbie Dunning's character. Dolores is asking her if she's scared, and it's kind of that kind of cliche talk, but it's very interesting to see the two, like this is when you see the two women talking about each other and then talking to each other, and they also don't talk about men while they're talk about the mission.
Mhm.
But as far as a couple of things that is just hilarious to me. So when she comes into the room, the Tina doctor, she comes in and she meets the metalhead dude, the sergeant, and he's like, "What are you doing in here? Women aren't allowed in here." Or even though the other woman's in there, and he's like, and then
Yeah, no.
all this sexist stuff, and then she tells him who she is, and she's working for Mittenhand, and then a screen comes in, a computer screen comes in, and that's Mittenhand on a screen. You see just his head, and he's all like this really over the top like German guy, and it's fairly hilarious, really. But apparently the director on the commentary was saying that they actually shot that live with everybody talking to him from the other room. They projected it onto the television screen. They didn't add it in later,
Mm.
so they gave everybody something to react to. But then Mittenhand comes in, and we see Mittenhand's really in charge. And then once they get on the plane, and they also have they're trying to set up this main dude, the Books character who looks a little bit like Sylvester Stallone
Yeah,
as a love interest for the Tina
Tina.
Reeves character, but they're trying really hard, and it really fails with the chemistry
Yeah,
and
seems like
the
it.
writing. And the writing, I think, is I think it might be the writing more than the chemistry. Or it might be a combination of both. And it's because of this way that the character is the Books character, the guy is always approached in a sexist sort of way. The way he
Yeah.
comes from like, and then there's a misunderstanding about sexism between him and her, and so there's always this conflict that's really like she's pushing away from him always, and it's almost like he has to pull her to him, and then she has to kind of act like it's hard for an actress to transition from this guy's a sexist pig to okay, I kind of like this guy a little bit, and it happens throughout, like in odd ways. And it's like it's really hampered, I think, by those
I,
two thoughts.
I think you have it right on the money because I kept thinking for a while there that it was just the chemistry between the actors, but I do think it has to deal with the writing and how it's approached by the actors because it seems the dialogue seems uneven and it's something that the actors can't seem to like get past.
Yeah.
So it seems awkward.
I think the actress especially. I think she looks great. I think her acting in general is great, but there's a disservice here to her because she got this potentially playful dialogue that's played super serious until the scene becomes playful out of nowhere, and it almost had to always be playful for it to work because it was like, and she seems that actress. You can tell by her fucking face that she is mad about the sexist part aspect of the scenes. That she is playing it super serious. She is fighting for her feminist rights within the scene instead of doing it playfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then, well, I guess I mean, I think she looks great. I think she actually is a pretty good actress, but I think that, and like a lot of it does have to do with the way it's written. I could give another example of what happens next. So they get on they get on the plane, and this so and he's trying to put this suit on her when they're already en route. The plane's already moving, and this like the protective suit that he's trying to put on her, and he's really being really hard with her, like pulling on the suit really hard, and he's actually kind of like copping feels, which she sees, and she's like telling him off, like get your hands off me, and then he's like, oh, he's like you want to die, and he reaches down into her shirt by mistake, maybe, and he actually grabs you can tell he grabs her boob a little bit, and then that's when the other guy, Miguel Nuez's character, kind of like, hey man, you need to chill it out a little bit. You gotta be easy, and he steps in, and she's liking that, she's cool with that. She's like, okay, yeah, I want you to put it on me easy and don't be jerking the shit out of me. And then the other guy knocks Miguel Nuez's character out of the way. He's like, I got this, and he starts getting rough with her again. And suddenly the ship, some turbulence, and then she falls backwards onto a chair, and he lands on top of her. And then there's this moment where their eyes lock, and it's like, oh my god. Oh my God, we love each other, or we have an attraction for each other, and it's like that wasn't there before when he was like grabbing her boob.
Oh shit! When you say it out loud, David, it sounds so horrible.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. Like if you think about it, it's hard. It's the script's written that way, and you have to act pissed off. You're being manhandled, and you have to go from being pissed off that you're being manhandled to all of a sudden, okay, this guy's kind of cute in like 2 seconds. It's like shit, it's just an odd thing that they pushed together there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I think that unfortunately they try that several times in the movie with these two characters, and it seems very odd, and like you wonder why she even has anything to do with him.
Well, I mean, she has to. She has to in some parts of the movie because he is a Marine. He is there to protect her, which he is protecting her. But there's definitely scenes when that's not happening, where they actually, and there's a bar scene like at one point when they're actually drinking and talking and trying to get to know each other a little bit. And again,
that goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, it goes horribly wrong, and it's like and then you got two different like really strongly polar opposite personalities that in real life that people like that do get together, but not the way that it happens in this film. And you know what I'm saying, not like every scene has to have that connection, that connection scene that doesn't connect. It's like they're okay with each other, they have a brief conversation, they fight, and then something happens where they have a brief connection that like, okay. It was like constantly, and like there's like probably 4 or 5 scenes like that in the film.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about maybe some of the other ones later. But what happens next, though, before they get to the planet, we're introduced to that princess who's a really awesome character.
I do think that the actress is having a ball playing the princess character in this movie.
Yeah, and like that character is like she kind of looks a little bit like Paris Hilton, but she's dressed like all scantily clad like a Leia in Return of the Jedi or that Arabian Night sort of uniform.
Yeah, she's like,
she's
like the prize not like the prize a princess of whatever planet she's from. And the leprechaun has gotten her as his bride, and she's perfectly fine with that because he's loaded. He's got all
Yeah.
this money.
Well, yeah, it was funny that actually they progressed that because it starts off he's got her captured and she's in shackles.
She's in shackles, yeah.
Yeah, and then he lets her loose and he's got a table that he has her sit down at, and then he tells her he's got all this gold, and suddenly she's like, "Okay, I'm in. This is cool." You know, she's even talking about possibly killing her dad over all the gold or whatever. So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like she's a very kind of a villainous character, like the Leprechaun. So it's like
Yeah.
they could kind of have a good match
She
throughout. Yeah,
I saw her as like the female version of the leprechaun.
yeah.
Like all she cares about is gold, and she'll do anything for gold, doesn't matter what. Um,
Yeah, she's very
I
spoiled. It's actually, yeah, it's a hilarious performance, and I like the way they keep her in that wardrobe the whole time too. You know, and the actor seems to be really digging it.
well, like I said, I think she has the blast playing the role. I mean, you're not the weird thing about this film is because the military people are not there to save her. This is a whole other separate storyline between the leprechaun and the princess. Like we had something similar in which one would they go to Vegas? The second one, or the third one?
It's the third one. The same director directed that one too.
Oh yeah. Uh, so I think it's the second one that has the lovebird. See, I'm getting them confused in my head because they're all Leprechaun movies. Uh, where there's always this love story that revolves within these films. But this one is all based around money. Like it's all based around gold, not money, but gold. Because I guess it's even in the far reaches of the galaxy, that's still the most sought after commodity is gold and not money. Because all we ever see is like real gold.
Yeah, I mean, gold is a commodity though, and it makes sense because the money wouldn't be worth anything in space, where gold would be, or any minerals that aren't from a particular place would be worth something. You know, if it was like a
So,
diamond or I mean, any type of mineral that's not that could be used.
well, what happens then is the military people show up and they do something to
Right,
her.
that's what we were talking about earlier. That scene where we see the outside of the planet briefly, and then they go into the cave, and then there's like this other alien dude that like pops his head out, and he's like, ah, and then they shoot him and kill him, and then there's
Make
like
all
this
this
big,
noise.
yeah. I guess he was like his maybe he's just a random alien that was hanging around on the planet, you know.
I just thought it was a random creature. We don't ever see any other creatures, so I just thought it was just a
Yeah,
random cave creature. To be honest with you, I didn't think anything of it other than that.
right.
And that is, I'm trying to remember that guy's name. Oh, was it Lucky? Why am I thinking his name was Lucky?
Which character is it?
First person who gets killed by the
Oh
leprechaun.
yeah,
Uh,
it doesn't really matter. There's a guy that goes in there and finds his gold. One of the Marines.
yeah.
Yeah,
So the theme of gold and wealth is prevalent in this film, like in the other films. It stays like that. Like everyone's motivation in this movie is gold, money, monetary. What do you call it? Security. And so this first Marine goes in there and he gets enticed by seeing the leprechaun's gold and thinks he could just take it and steal it. Um
yeah.
as Go ahead.
No. It's a cool thing because this guy goes, yeah, he goes in there and then the leprechaun shows up behind him and he has like a lightsaber from Star Wars and it's green, yeah, of course.
Yes, it's great.
And then he cuts off the guy's legs and kills him. So it's like that's a cool thing. It doesn't show it's kind of I don't think you needed to see his legs here, but like this is one of those where it's okay that it didn't show it. He slashes him, the guy falls, and then he lands on the ground and he stabs him again.
Yeah.
Um, one other thing that Leprechaun does that he does change wardrobe a lot in this one, and he does different kind of things like that. The first time he walks in and talks to the princess, the first time you see him on screen in this one, he walks in dressed like Alfred Hitchcock or something. He's wearing like a suit and he comes walking in like all suave and but he changes wardrobes and he's got some pretty cool. He's got some pretty cool things he gets to do in this one. You can tell he's having fun doing different sort of stuff.
Well, he got to play with a lightsaber, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
This film, he has weapons, lightsabers, machine guns, pistols, whatever he can find in this movie. He's going to use them as weapons. But that first soldier, Lucky, gets killed
Yeah.
with a lightsaber because he's after the gold. And then it starts. The other soldiers show up, and there's a firefight between the Leprechaun and the freaking Marines. All these
Yeah.
Marines are in there just shooting up the place.
Right. And then that's where those grenades come in that from earlier, like they throw a grenade and the princess is about to get killed by it. And so the leprechaun throws himself on top of the grenade to save the princess. And then a pretty awesome effect here. This is one of those times where this effect is one of the effects it seems like anytime it has something to do with the leprechaun, there's effects are really good. His whole body explodes,
Yes.
goes all over the place. She gets knocked down, loses one of her hands that you don't actually see happen, but you find out later that one of her hands gets exploded. And yeah, so that's how the leprechaun at first they think he's dead. His head's sitting on the ground. One of his legs is sitting on the ground.
He's in a lot of different pieces, and then of course the other soldier comes by. They think that they've done their job. They did a search and destroy mission, but of course,
this was Kowalski is the soldier. Yeah.
Kowalski. Well, you mentioned him because Kowalski's the one that pees on body part of the leprechaun, and of course there's a transference from the body part up into the urine stream up into his pants, and then of course you see the leprechaun's head. He just grins.
Yeah, and that's a weird thing that happens there, because other than the fact that it goes up into his penis when he's peeing, but I mean that's fine. But the thing that's weird is his head's on the ground, still alive, and somehow he's transferred his essence into the other guy to get onto the ship. But is a leprechaun like does he split like when you do that, or do you have two leprechauns now, or is it just still one leprechaun?
You asking me, dude?
Yeah,
this movie makes up rules as it goes along. Remember, each one of these movies has its own rules. If they had left, if the leprechaun had not made a smirk with just the head, we would have said, "Oh, it's easy. The leprechaun just transfers into the one guy. It's cool." But you're right. It's like he makes a smirk. So is he going to be in two places? Are there two leprechauns? Two places?
I mean, it'd be the same leprechaun in two different places. Like he splits off, but we never see that.
No, we never see that.
But I mean, I don't know I think it's just one leprechaun, but it's really odd that they decided to show his head on the ground and have it move like that, like because the leprechaun, as we see later on, he can regenerate from just a foot. Like he can come back up out of his foot and be a complete whole leprechaun again.
Well, that's one of the plot story elements, is the fact that he can regenerate himself, which I kind of probably missed that when I first watched that, because I didn't pay much attention, obviously, when I first saw this film.
Yeah. Well, he can regenerate himself in some of the other films as well, but you almost seems like they ought to have some rule about it. It's like when they do this and you see the head, and it's just like
you go with the flow.
Yeah, you go with the flow. I wanted to point out some dialogue before we go further that we missed. This is like about that sergeant, the metalhead sergeant, and they're at one point the Reeves, the doctor Tina Reeves is talking with Styx and I think the main dude Book. Styx is Miguel Nuez's character, but they're talking about the sergeant, and she asks what happened to his head, and then Styx says, "What happened in our last war? He went down in a shuttle, and it took out half of his skull, and then somehow he was able to save another guy and walk him back." And then she asked him, "Did he live?" And then there's a beat where both Styx and Books are like, "What do you mean?" They don't say it, but they're like, "What do you mean, did he live? He's sitting right there." And then she's like, "Oh, I mean the guy on his back. Did he live?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he lived." But that's a foreshadowing for some really ridiculous plot thing that happens later with that character.
It does say.
Yeah. It took me like probably the third time watching it to see it because this is like a ridiculous plot point. But I guess we'll talk about it when we get to it later. But it's not. At
Uh,
least there's some thought. At least there was some thought to it that was planted here, so you can tell that it wasn't just brought up at the last second. But
a reveal with no like forethought beforehand. Yes, yes.
yeah, yeah, it seems very little. I have a lot to say about that when it does happen.
Okay. Well, then after that, they take the princess back up to the ship, and they think, and they've taken this gold and everything else that was in the so-called cavern chamber, whatever they want to call the leprechaun's lair.
Yeah, well, I don't. They weren't able to get all of his gold. There's so much gold down there that they actually they end up having to. They're waiting for this other mining team to come.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
they're orbiting the planet. Now all of this is told in an odd way through dialogue, and we never see the other people come and show up and do what they're supposed to do. But that's what this was. So they're basically going to orbit the planet until the other mining company gets there, so they can go down and mine the gold. Now they do have this friggin' ray gun that shrinks the gold so they can transport it. But here's what I think they should have done if it's portable. So you take that ray gun down to the planet and shrink all the gold and bring it back up to the ship, and then they don't have to wait for the other dudes to get there.
yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe they can't transport it, but it was. But we also get to meet the doctor, the Herald, the assistant, the doctor guy with the glasses. Pretty funny actor, really, in these
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah, he has some really good dialogue in responses to a lot of other characters in this movie. That's just funny. It's just he's
Yeah,
on point.
but even in that scene though, like the first scene it shows him in, Tina Reeves, who apparently is not necessarily above him, but she starts kind of ordering him around, says he needs to do a bunch of lab work on the princess, and he's just like, since when were you in charge?
Mm,
He actually says, I wrote it down. He's like, I don't work for you. And Tina's like, just do it. We'll fight about who's in charge later. And then Books is standing there. He tries to be like a hero to Tina, and suddenly he goes, you heard her, Harold." He's like, "Move your ass," and kind of like puts his hand on him, and the Harold's like, "Don't touch me unless you mean it, cowboy." And he looks him up and down.
yeah, I do like the Harold character until towards the end, where his character just seems to go a little bit too bonkers. But
Yeah.
I like how he responds to a lot of the other characters in this film.
Yeah,
Um,
but I like that though, even though later you do see that he kind of scares Books. That's a really good response to Books trying to be masculine and
mhm.
and like make him do something, and then act like he's pretend like he, well, he may be bisexual because he does seem to be attracted to a woman later, but he does, to make someone like that back off if you start flirting with them. Suddenly they're
Mhm.
gonna be like, oh, wait a minute, maybe never mind. You got to do what you need to do.
He's
There's
gonna
all, yeah. What now?
he's gonna emasculate the Book's character, which
Yeah,
is actually good for this film because he's such a male chauvinist in this film. Uh,
right.
you know,
But a couple other cool things happen in the lab there, and I agree with that. The way it's portrayed, but he does seem to have a softer side. Yeah, I'm just joking. That's the way it's written, though. That's what they want you to think, you know. But these guys are all Marines, and they're all in this environment where there's kind of a life and death scenario going on. So you
mhm.
do need a little bit of masculinity to be able to handle that situation. Now, maybe they take it a little too far in some scenes, and it's the way that it's written. But there is some disrespect in some of the scenes for women. But it's like
Oh, yeah.
the character that Debbie Dunning plays, the Dolores character, seems to really embrace all of this, where the other character is out of her element. The Tina Reeves character is out of her element, and she's definitely very standoffish and feels very uncomfortable until she doesn't later. But she does feel safe around them, but she doesn't. She feels uncomfortable when they start trying to, or especially when Book starts trying to flirt with her at some points. Um, but also in this scene, a couple other things are established. There is the bugs. There's like a spider and bugs that they're
Yeah.
messing with that come into play later. And then they find a necklace on the princess, and then the Reeves identifies it. She says it's from the planet Dominia. It signifies a royal birth, so then they know that she's a princess and where she came from, and they know some of the rules. Tina apparently knows a lot about that because later there's more information that comes out.
which is
And
some of that's hilarious too.
yeah, but after that confrontation between Harold and Books, and he kind of steps in, and Harold flirts with him, and then walks out of the room. After he leaves, there's another conflict between Tina and Books, and she's like, "Don't ever do that again." Blah 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 blah. And then he's like, and then it goes, and then there's a back and forth, and then finally he's like, "Strip," and she's like, "What?" He's like, "I got to take your body armor back."
He doesn't like being emasculated, I tell you.
Yeah.
By anybody.
Yeah.
Not Harold and not her. So yeah.
Then we're introduced to like another set on the ship. It's a disco party room. That's their main lounge.
Yeah. So this is like one of the main locations where we see a lot of stuff happen at. And I like your term for it, disco lounge.
Yeah.
Because that's where they just shoot off some steam in this disco lounge.
Yeah, they go in there and they drink, and this was been a good opportunity for there to bring some Irish stuff into the film where they're drinking, but they don't do it, but I mean, to me, it's like, you got a disco lounge, but it's not Irish at all. I mean, I get it that they're like, well, there's not a disco lounge on this ship. This is in the future, like in really far in the future. Why would it be Irish? And it's like, but the thing is, you have the control over the damn script, and you could have made it Irish. In fact, they wanted disco party room for some reason.
Well, I think you're right in that. They could have done a lot of subtle things to make it seem like it's still an Irish movie. Whether they used the primary color green for a lot of the set deck, the color schemes and everything like that. They still could have made it look like it's still a St. Patrick themed movie, but they don't. They missed that opportunity.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it would have made it. It would have given it a little bit better feel. I think or a little more St. Patrick-y feel. This feels a lot. A lot of the ship looks pretty good as far as for what the budget they had, and apparently a lot of the sets, including the lab, are from another movie. The lab scene and the scene where they're on the planet and it shows the planet's surface, but they were able to reuse sets from other movies, kind of dress them up a little bit better. But the disco party room scene is kind of, I mean, I guess it's fine, but it is funny because it's like, what is going on with this one? But there is a disco ball in there.
Yeah, there's a disco ball. I thought that was why you were calling it the disco room.
Oh yeah,
disco ball.
That's what it is. They dance a little bit in there too, but that's when the Dolores character takes the Kowalski character, who apparently is the biggest stud out of all of them, and she's going to take him into the other. And he's the one that the leprechaun went up into his penis, and she takes him into the other room, and they're going to have sex, but it doesn't go as planned. Once he gets excited, the leprechaun gets excited too. So this is like one of the limitations, I think, on either the budget or the censors, because the leprechaun literally comes out of his penis and kills him, but you don't see any blood. The leprechaun comes up and it's not very gory. It's a cool idea. It's funny as shit, but it's like, but you don't. And they actually did this better. Not it coming out of the penis, but he comes out of a dude's stomach in Leprechaun Returns in a very gory way that it should have happened that way here too. But it's still it's a pretty funny idea for him to come out of the penis like that. And if you watch this on, like, say, the Sci-Fi Channel and it's edited, it don't matter as much because you're thinking that they cut out something. But when you see it without anything cut out, you're like, yeah, they kind of missed an opportunity there.
They had to save that for the mitten spider that shows up later on. It says the leprechaun comes straight out of his pants, Kowalski's pants, and Kowalski's dead. I think that Dolores character is funny because she starts thinking that she's the cause of it.
Yeah, yeah. And they hadn't even done anything yet, you know.
No, that's why. When she goes to Metalhead, the sergeant asks, "Man, do you think it's my fault that Kowalski's dead?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Holy, you didn't even get anywhere."
Yeah. When the leprechaun comes out there, he's got a really Irish looking costume on, and he's got a sheriff badge, and he's acting like John Wayne, and he starts talking to her in kind of John Wayne's voice, and she eventually runs off and it runs into the disco room and yells "It's alive" or something like that. There's a lot of homages to other films in this.
Yes.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that it happens. I don't know how. What do you think about them? Like that sort of thing.
I think by the time they did this fourth movie, they're just having complete fun with the concept. That's why it's in space. They don't even mention that he's a leprechaun. They call him an alien. There's a princess, but then no one's there to save the princess. All these concepts in this movie are there because this is the fourth movie in the franchise, and they're just kind of saying, let's just throw everything at the kitchen sink and see what fucking comes up, you know.
But it does seem like the director specifically wants him or wants to do callbacks to movies that he likes, like Frankenstein here, from Colin Clive's Frankenstein, when she says "It's alive," which is a really odd thing to say when she runs in. The leprechauns come out of this guy's dick, and she runs into the room and says "It's alive." Yeah, I don't know. To me, maybe "It's coming" would have been more appropriate.
You're thinking. Shit. That would have been more appropriate if Kowalski had said it when he first got the boner. Oh, it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be them having a way too much fun with this
Yeah.
But after she says that, next thing you know is we see everybody with their armor, guns, and everything going around and ready to shoot and find the leprechaun. So they took no time doing that. They went from I'm getting drunk and having a party to okay, it's time to go kill something.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was looking. I forgot to tell you this. This is some lines I wrote down right before that happens. It cuts back to Books and Tina. This is the bar scene when they're trying to flirt. And here's some of the dialogue from that. She says, she's a biologist, which establishes what she is. And Books says something like, "You must be really smart then," and then she becomes really offended that he says that. It just escalates into more bullshit.
Well, that's because, and then also, he knows he said some bad shit, and so he wants to start over with her. I was like, yeah.
But you can't, once that happens, I mean, this is a movie, but once you get somebody thinking, like, once you get somebody upset with you like that, and they think you're like a pig or whatever, it's gonna be really hard to change their thought of you. And it's walking up and trying to talk about how smart she is, and then she actually insults him back, which by mistake, but he makes a big deal, like says that she called him like a Neanderthal or something like that. I guess he's trying to play her game back to her in a way. I don't know if he's really truly offended, but he's kind of taking it more lightly than she is. But he's definitely trying to do it more playful, but it's tough though to have when you have the way the scenes are written and the way the two actors are playing it differently too. After the Dolores comes in and then they all go after her, they all start trying to. Let's see. Yeah, there's a bit. It goes back to the lab briefly before that too, and they're checking out the princess, and then and Mittenhand like wants her DNA because they figure out that it's it's actually like this is the part where the Herald's actually got the unconscious princess laying on the table when he's like starts kind of almost molesting her when Mittenhand pops in on the screen and he says he wants her DNA because he knows it can regrow tissue. But that's a part there where the Herald character, that we see that he's actually probably not gay like he acted like he was earlier, because the way that he's handling this unconscious woman's body and getting all up on it, which of course makes him unlikable, but I still think it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it makes him unlikable, but he's still funny in the whole movie. And the thing I always thought was weird was that Mittenhand wants her DNA instead of like how would he like I keep wondering, well, how does he know that she might have regenerative DNA like the Leprechaun? Like,
Well,
unless he assumes she is like the leprechaun, the alien to them.
yeah, I think that maybe even though it's not explicitly said here, Tina does say that she is a princess from this particular planet.
Yeah.
He probably knows that that species does has have regenerative DNA. I mean, that's probably why. But I mean, it's not explicitly said, but that's probably why that he's pretty smart. He knows a lot of stuff, and he's almost like a computer himself.
Yeah.
So he probably would be able to know what species would have that. The next person that gets killed while they're trying to get the leprechaun to go into this waste chamber, which says like there's flesh eating bacteria inside of it, so they have to put on some special suits to go in there. It also establishes the airlock for that's comes up later again.
Well, it's funny because when they go in there, the leprechaun's also in a suit.
Yeah, yeah,
I like. Oh, so why did the leprechaun even go in there at all to begin with?
yeah. And why do they think he was in there? You know,
Well, I was going to get to that too. It's like,
yeah.
so why do you think the alien went into a waste management facility room with flesh eating bacteria? That does not seem like a good place to hide at all.
Yeah, no, but it gets him another kill. Again, he probably could have killed everybody within 5 minutes if he really wanted to.
Yeah, I think
Maybe, yeah.
I think truly this works because he has fun killing people.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, he does seem to
always
be
saying these
enjoying
little
it.
sidelines, and he's
Yeah,
always yeah. I think the leprechaun just has fun killing people on his own time. He's not
yeah,
Michael Myers or Jason. He's not trying to kill them fast. He has to play with his prey before he kills them.
yeah. And he does a couple of times in the film randomly. He's walking down the hall by himself, and he randomly recites some
Yeah,
Shakespearean lines. And he mixes it with dialogue from the movie too. But he does just walk down reciting Shakespeare. So I guess he's just having a fun time doing all this. You know, it's probably been a long time since he's been able to stalk this many people at one time.
well, and he does have a princess that actually wants to be his bride. So
Yeah, and she's unconscious at this point. So I guess maybe
yeah,
he's just kind of waiting for her to wake back up and killing time. You know, killing all these people.
I get that. I got the impression
Yeah,
on this watch. I got the impression that he's just killing time since she wakes. Because as soon as she wakes, he kind of he makes no bones about getting right to his princess, pretty much.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's a good point. I was it's disappointing that the princess is unconscious for like a good like half an hour or longer of the film, which is about an hour and a half long. But because once she comes back awake, it does help the last act of the film a lot, and she's really strong in the first act too.
mhm.
But but the death of inside of that bacteria, what happens? The leprechaun eventually attacks him and rips one of the guy's suits, and then Books is with him, and the other one's Mooch, and Books takes Mooch back out of the room, but before he gets him out, the bacteria's already eaten all his flesh, and he's a complete skeleton at that point.
Now, did you know? I only noticed it this time too. The weird continuity or craziness of the film is when they go into the flesh eating room, they have to go through a chamber first to be deloused. But when they
Yeah,
come back, as soon as they get into the chamber, she opens up that little chamber without delousing them. So they kill some flesh eating back. And I'm like, well,
yeah,
they all should be dying now, but
yeah.
film
Right.
logic.
Yeah, I mean they bring this body out there too. That's like the body has got flesh eating bacteria on it. It's like, what is it? Just
Yeah.
yeah,
You got, hey, for everyone listening to us, this film does not play with logic well. It doesn't matter. All it matters is with, surprise for whoever gets killed. And you just have to laugh at it because this guy Mooch is nothing but bones. It's
yeah,
like 2 seconds. Oh,
yeah.
2 seconds. The books is dragging him from where he was to going outside, and he's complete bones. That flesh eating virus is like makes no bones about
Yeah.
it.
But that's something that could have been so much cooler if they had a bigger budget. Like once he rips the guy's suit open, if the dude just started kind of disintegrating and trying to get out and then just falling apart as he was going, and
Yeah.
then he had to leave him in there, that would have been like a really cool effect. That could have been really like a lot of this stuff. If they had the budget and the time, they could have, which they could have made some of these deaths really awesome.
Yeah.
But they only had 18 days to shoot the film.
Oh shit, that's it.
18 days, and they had two pickup days. Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
18 days for 1.6 million.
yeah. Let me make sure
Okay.
I wrote that down. He says he had $80,000 for the visual effects. That's the computer generated stuff that's doesn't look all that hot really, but I guess at the time that was probably that.
For a low budget straight to DVD film, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that's right. So it's 18 shooting days and then 2 days of second unit. So it's a lot to do in that amount of days, and they got a lot done. He did have some second unit directors. The the director saying on the commentary that some of the stuff he would kind of set up, and then they would like kind of take over and finish the scene while he went on to do another scene, just to try
Hmm.
to because they didn't have enough time to do it properly.
Oh, 18
Yeah,
days. Jesus, no, I
yeah,
don't think so.
yeah.
Um,
Then the next scene is where we're introduced to Mittenhand in the flesh for the first time. They all go back into the lab. They're running from the leprechaun, and they decide they want to give the princess to the leprechaun because he says that's what he wants.
mhm.
And from the other movies, we know that if they given him the princess, he still would have killed him anyway, more than likely. But then Mittenhand has gotten, he's a mad German doctor. He's gotten that he wants that princess because he knows about her degenerative abilities. And suddenly this wall opens and you see the cockpit of the ship, and he comes out and he looks like he has a dialect from Doctor Who on the bottom. He kind of rolls out, and only the top part of his body, he's got a head and an arm.
In the
That's
arm, one arm.
all that's left, and the rest of it's like a dialect or a computer, and all this weird like little fluid bottles that we see from the back. What do you think about Mittenhand?
Uh, Minhand, I can say that you kind of wonder what was the motivation for making him the way he is. But of course, later on when they kill him as Mitten Spider, they have that whole callback to the Fly, the original
Yeah,
black and white Fly.
yeah, yeah.
So there has to be something in the Daleks. For Doctor Who was like, oh, I could see that right away. I didn't even think about that. But
Well, it's
it's
kind of
like
like the Cybermen from Doctor Who are actually people's brains they put into a cyber suit. The dialects are actually alien creatures inside of what looks like this.
yeah.
So I mean, I guess it kind of maybe combines both of those ideas in a way.
Mm. Yeah, it's probably closer. Uh, it still boggles my mind that they decided to only give him the one real arm, though. But I guess they wanted to have a rope. I don't know. It looks odd. It looks funny. It does not look creepy or weird. It just looks funny.
Yeah,
Of course, that kind of plays into later scenes when he and the leprechaun kind of confront each other, and they're talking bad about each other, which is kind of hilarious.
yeah. It's a good showdown between the two when they finally come together. But this is kind of it's a very like theatrical performance that this guy does. But it actually it's really funny though, and he actually gets to the point while he's talking because he's part machine. He starts to malfunction a little bit, and he has to like start hitting himself to get him to stop because when he gets upset, he goes from he's pretty extreme with his temper too. It goes up really quick, and he's definitely kind of acting like a German mad scientist, almost like the kind of I guess kind of like a caricature of a Nazi sort of general, sort of that scientist thing. Um, but what happens though? He the sergeant wants to basically take over, and then like he says like in the event of emergency. No, I'm sorry. He actually says that the sergeant wants them to. They basically at midnight or something. Their contract's over, and then they get to go home. But then Mittenhand says because there's an emergency, I have the power to extend the contracts,
Hmm.
and so they're basically bound legally to stay and finish fixing the emergency that's there to be, but then him and the sergeant negotiate a deal, which is kind of funny. They negotiate a deal on how much percentage him and the sergeant and his team are going to get from the mineral rights from the planet, or the gold rights. I think they say like 2% or something like that, which is going to be a lot of money. There's a lot of
Yeah.
gold down there.
But that's also funny because, like I said, there's always this theme in this movie about, in a lot of the Leprechaun movies, about gold, money, and what we'll do for that gold or money. Like in the third one, when they were in Las Vegas, all the main guy wants is to win at the slots, to win at the casino, win it big. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
uh, and so you even got that motivation for all these characters in this film. And it's not the first time, but even in was it Aliens? I think it was Aliens, not Alien. I think it's Aliens. They are motivated by actually both of them. They're both motivated by goal, where they get percentages of whatever they find there. This whole
Yeah,
South
yeah.
type of.
Right, yeah. It's definitely like a callback to that. And this scene, a lot of the scenes in the movie are kind of spoofy in a way, like
Oh,
that like dialogue between the two of them, and also even like you're saying, like about the fly, and then when she says it's alive, and there's like tons of that sort of stuff in the film. And so they agree with Mittenhand, and then they leave him and the other doctor and the Harold in the lab, and they go to try to find the leprechaun, and then that's when Harold gets a scraping of off of Mittenhand's finger, and then he uses the princess's blood to regenerate it like a new finger, just to show that they can do it. So they have confirmed that they can actually regenerate the Mittenhand's skin, and he wants to regrow his body back so he can be completely human again.
mm-hmm.
So it's and
But
then there's
okay.
there's another shootout that happens next. Like Tina, they separate. The Marines separate in different places. Tina, of course, ends up with books, and they have another hissy fit fight. She says she can take care of herself, and he's like, "No, you can," or something. And then the Leprechaun shows up and handcuffs Books, and then they end up having a gunfight, shooting back and forth to each other. And then at that point, Books gets Tina. They finally get out of that and breaks the handcuff off half of it. I don't know how he eventually gets the other part off of his arm and never shows it. But then they escape, and then she's actually says, like, "You saved my life," and he's like, "All part of the job." So at that point, she's kind of impressed. He did save her life and pulled her up this ladder, and so she's kind of coming around a little bit to his male chauvinistic ways.
Yeah. So we've been once they separate, we started focusing a lot on the Books and Tina character, but I also want to get back to Sticks, which is Miguel and Nunez,
Right.
and
Yeah.
our other character Danny.
He looks a lot like Christian Bell.
I did not think about that
I
at
think
all.
he looks like him a little bit. He's actually a pretty good actor. I like he's on screen. Like, he's the guy that she tried to throw the grenade to him, and he was completely not paying attention, and almost blows up the whole ship earlier on. And
Yeah.
and he usually, when you see him in any scene, this is his big scene here, but like you see him in other parts of the film, he does look kind of like tired, like he's not that into whatever's going on most of the time.
Well, it's funny in this one because with those two when they first split up, he's like, "Well, maybe we should just hang back and hide and let them find the leprechaun, and we'll just take the money afterwards."
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
and Sticks is the character who's the most military thought mindedness, I
yeah.
guess. That's not the right words, but that's close to what I'm trying to say, because he's the one who is
Well, yeah, it's not. I mean, there's some military to it, but it's more of about a decent human being
yeah,
who's trying to do the right thing
yeah,
throughout. Like earlier on, when the guy was manhandling the girl,
yeah,
and he's just like, let me put it on the right way and not manhandle her." And he,
yeah.
he doesn't seem to have a motivation. He wasn't necessarily trying to. Maybe he was a little bit trying to flirt with her, but he does seem like he wants to do the right thing in every situation, and he feels like they've been assigned to save the ship, and that's what he's trying to do. He wants to save the ship
Hmm.
and save everybody on it.
Yeah, he doesn't like step forward. I don't remember. I don't think he steps forward and says, "Oh yeah, we need to make that money. Let's make that percent higher." All right, not like Dolores. Dolores says, "Oh, okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, we'll do that." You know.
Yeah, I mean, most of them are like into the money. I mean, he does say there, the mitten hand does say he's going to make their compensation 100 times more, which is outlandish, a number more than they were originally promised. So,
Yeah, but
oh,
it's but I don't know if you remember. Do you remember if it was Sticks or Books that said that it does they'll just do I think it was Books actually now who said when they were in that negotiation that he'll do whatever the sergeant says that they should do. Uh,
yeah, it probably is books.
yeah, I think it
Like
was Books.
some of them are clearly like motivated by it, by the money. But these, I would think that books and sticks are probably less motivated by it, 'cause especially since they're the ones that survive later. That's part of what makes them able to survive, really.
Yeah,
Because
well,
most time,
and Books does separate from the group later on to go help everyone escape too. So that's always a good thing.
yeah, yeah. The he gets. But so when when they're in there like Sticks and Danny and they somehow there's like a construction video that comes up on the screen with a leprechaun, and this time he has a construction hat on and he's like doing a safety video and showing them how not to cut off their fingers with scissors, which is pretty funny. He somehow they get separated, like, but he
Danny
does, yeah,
Danny runs. Danny
yeah.
runs and he closes the door. He gets behind the door, closes it, and doesn't let Sticks in. And that
Yeah.
separates the two.
One funny thing though, after that's good. I messed with on the safety video that he lights his hand. The leprechaun lights his own hand on fire, and he's like, and then he says, "As Shakespeare said, shit happens."
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when Danny gets there by himself, the leprechaun actually sings "Oh Danny Boy," which is a little bit of Irish. This has got Irish song in there, and the guy's name's Danny, so
Yeah.
they probably called him Danny just so they could sing that song to him right before he dies.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think
Yeah.
yeah, but I think you're right. I think that's one of the few times they actually bring in anything that's Irish related is the
Yeah.
old Danny boy. Uh and then
He tries to make a deal with Danny. He's like tries to like he comes up with a deal that he's like Danny's not really wanting to kill him. He's like he comes up with a deal, which of course the leprechaun immediately um, betrays him on, and he drops a big metal box on top of him and completely like smashes him to the ground.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, we another death that we don't see. It's off screen. We just see the
yeah,
big box come down, and we know he's underneath it. So,
yeah.
like I said, it's a another scene where they don't go for any blood at all for this movie. I almost think that they're trying to go for a very almost instead of RPG-13 vibe with the movie. Uh,
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it kind of seems that way, especially with the violence. Some of the other stuff, the sexual content and the language is there though, so there's no way it was going to be PG-13 with that in it. But this, yeah, but it is weird. It almost seems like it's edited, like when you're watching it. But I mean, clearly they didn't shoot some of the special effects.
mm.
But that sort of gag it's effective. It can be effective in other films, but it is hard to show like a big thing drop on somebody because once it drops on them, they're under it, and you can't really see anything. I mean, other than maybe you could see some blood coming out from under it, which would have been cool.
You need to see like a big blood splatter from underneath.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
of us.
yeah, yes, yeah. Yeah, it would have been a nice touch, and the budget was so that they a lot of times on any of these you don't see the connection. Whenever something's connecting with someone's body, it cuts to it after it's already in there,
Yeah,
and that's like when they do a lot of special effects with the Leprechaun, like and it's kind of like that in Predator versus Alien, where they do a lot of Predator and Alien violence,
hmm
which apparently gets past censors because the blood's green or not the normal color. So they can kill the leprechaun in gruesome ways and it not matter as much.
yeah. They blow him up. He cuts off his own fingers, sets himself on fire, and he's perfectly fine, censor wise. Um, I think.
Yeah,
People think he does something else to himself too later on, but I can't remember now.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
he gets blown up like a lot in this film. It's like I think 3 or 4 times he gets blown completely up.
oh well, not to mention how they finally get rid of him at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Which they don't really. I don't think they really get rid of him, but but that the next death is Dolores. That's like when they're fighting, and somehow she ends up on this little like walkway with him,
Hmm.
and he throws her over the side, and she's holding on, and he starts trying to rip her fingers as she's holding on for dear life, and he finally just peels her fingers back all the way, and then she falls to her death. And the CGI looks really bad here. You don't see her actually fall. It's she's holding on, and here's something too where they could have done something really graphic by cutting her fingers off or something. Or something more graphic than what they did. She falls to her death, and they go down and find her body, but you don't see it land or anything. They go
No,
down
you
and
just see the
find it. Yeah.
aftermath.
And
So,
it's I really like the Dolores character though. I'm surprised this is about 51 minutes or so into the film. I'm surprised she lasted that long into it, especially like after that first scene where she was with the dude and he came out of his penis. I thought she would have died like right then. It's surprising that she lived this long, but it's also surprising that she lived this long and that they killed her off as early as they did, since they didn't kill her off when it made sense to kill her off.
yeah, I wondered that too when I rewatched it. I was like, I'm surprised she wasn't the one that died right after Kowalski. But then again, they also don't have a whole bunch of female characters in this film, so it could just be spreading the female characters out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, again, I liked the character. It would have been, I wouldn't mind her sticking around even longer than she did. I thought her death was a little lame. There,
Yeah, because it's so badly. Well, nowadays, I don't know if it was. I want to expect it. It was originally bad CGI when I originally saw the movie, but it's really aged badly now. So watching her just fall in this really bad CGI background, and then we don't see her splat, is kind of a letdown. It is.
yeah, you made a really good point about the female like stuff, because this is about when the princess wakes up.
Mhm.
So you go from having two females on screen to just one, and then you have two again because the princess wakes up for the last like half hour of the film. But this is like when that happens, because the lab the leprechaun comes to the lab dressed like Tina, completely naked. We don't really get to see anything, but you can see that she's naked, but we don't see actually any actual parts of her. But he comes to the door and he tricks the herald into letting him in because he's saying the leprechaun took her clothes. And she turns to the screen. It's pretty cool. She actually turns towards the camera, looks at the camera, and says some line in the leprechaun's voice before
Yeah,
he opens the door. It's a pretty well done shot. And then he gets in there, and it's like a he does like the leprechaun has telekinetic powers as well. That's another one of his powers. He's able to use his hand to throw the herald up against the wall, kind of like Carrie or whatnot. But that happens after that scene you were talking about earlier, where the leprechaun and the mitten hand actually have a pretty long dialogue.
but it's
And
an awesome scene though.
yeah, it is. It is. It's a great scene to see those two together trying to. And the leprechaun seems like he's kind of getting into what he's saying, but the mitten hand doesn't really want to make a deal with the leprechaun because and Harold's actually sneaking up behind him with a knife, and he stabs it through the leprechaun, and you actually see the green blood, and the leprechaun's a little like taken back. He's like, dude, I was having this really great conversation with this mitten hand guy, and suddenly both you guys decide you want to kill me. You know?
Well, what's funny is that I like this. This is the really, I guess you call it the really absurd death here,
Yeah, yeah.
because he throws Harold up against the wall, and then he takes what is it that he takes? It's not like a regular pan. That
Yeah, well, there's like it looks like a pizza pan, but
Yeah,
it's got a bunch of lab stuff on it that they've been working on. They've been using it as a tray to
okay.
bring their lab stuff around.
So yeah, so the leprechaun uses his powers to fling that over at Harold, and it just flattened his face completely like a pancake.
Yeah,
That's actually very. slapstick the way that we see the face afterwards. It's like flat as a pancake, and then of course Harold falls down dead.
And he's still like his face is still moving after it's
Yeah.
already smushed. It's like,
And that's where the absurd humor, like this, there's a lot of absurd humor in there, but this is the first death where it seems absurd like that.
yeah.
So it's funny as shit. But then we have that conversation between the Leprechaun and Mittenhand. Obviously, the Leprechaun gets the upper hand on Mittenhand. And then we see, I guess, does this princess wake up first, or does he does this thing to Mittenhand? I can't remember.
Well, no, yeah, the princess wakes up first because
Okay.
she's actually involved in all that. She wakes up, and it's funny. She wakes up, and the first thing she sees Leprechaun, she screams, and she's like, "Oh, okay, oh, it's you." You know, it's like it's funny.
Right,
First she
right.
thinks he's a monster, and she's, "Oh, okay, it's you. Yeah, we were cool." And then they cut the Mittenhand, and they have him tied up with a ball gag and
Yeah.
handcuffs, and then it's funny because this is like when you see the princess. She does say like that they heard him talk about like wanting her DNA or whatever, and she's really enjoying it. She's got a really sadistic personality like the Leprechaun too, and they're like torturing Mittenhand and and then she's just like really enjoying it. It's a really awesome performance, and then they take the spiders and the scorpions and put them into a blender, and then they take a big syringe and they inject it into Mittenhand's skull, and then she's just completely delighted. He's like spazzing, and
I think she's sadistic just like him, except she's a princess, and so she has this power trip. Oh, we just do whatever we want me to do because I'm the princess. She has
yeah,
that whole thing with the other characters, like when she finally shows off her breasts to books in
yeah,
film. Tina has to say, "Well, if you ever see a princess's bosom like that, that just means your death. You're gonna be put to death." I was like, "Yeah, she does whatever she wants to because it's a very fun character that she has because she's like the Leprechaun. They both kind of do whatever they want to do because there's no one there to stop them except for on her side, the Leprechaun can stop her, and he does when he decides to make her not look beautiful anymore.
yeah. But
He
that, yeah. But that was like when she opens her shirt up and shows them her boobs, which you actually see the boobs pretty good. But she's like, check it. She's like, look at this, read them and weep. You know, something like that. It's pretty hilarious. The director was actually talking about that scene
Oh my god.
where that was one of the requirements of the distributor that they wanted nudity in the film, and apparently maybe they can only get away with one scene of nudity, but that was his way of the way he did that scene was his way to kind of mock the requirement in a way. It was kind of making fun of the required nudity. Of course, they could have had the Tina character actually nude when she came to the door too, but maybe the actress didn't agree to nudity or didn't want to do nudity.
Or it could have had Dolores be nude too when she's with Kowalski.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they could have done more of it. The director didn't want to do nudity at all, but
Interesting.
that was how he added it in, though. It's pretty funny idea. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's a pretty funny idea. The next scene when how they got into that room that when they got Mittenhand with that syringe in there, all the Marines come in and then they have another firefight and they end up in the next room and all that showdown comes in with their breasts and they actually kidnap like the Leprechaun and the princess take the sergeant and they're able to make him change somehow with their powers and they leave the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a cool shot in the lab, and I remember this scene really well from the sci-fi channel when it was on because this is when the commercial happens. They came they come walking back into the room, and where Mittenhand was, where his dialect little tripod is, he's not there anymore.
No.
Like the dialect, like the whole computer part's still there, but he's gone, and then it's like goes to commercial. It's like, oh shit, where did he go? You know. It's like,
Yeah. I don't know if I saw that the first time I saw this film. I recognized that Mittenhand wasn't there in his little ship there.
yeah,
Because the rest of the film goes by pretty fast.
Right. It's more noticeable if they do a commercial right after it happens, so because they come into the room
Oh yeah,
and they
right.
look at it and it's just like fades out to commercial and then you're thinking, okay, well, I wonder what's going to happen with Mittenhand next. He's
Yeah.
like gone from his pedestal. Then something weird happens in the next scene. It's the disco room again, and they have the sergeant in there. They come in there like Books. I think the only people alive are like Books and Tina and Sticks, and they come in there, and the sergeant is now dressed like a woman, and is a really odd transvestite scene. And then he keeps switching between that and the princess, which is a kind of a cool showcase for the actor to do, but it's kind of a weird thing too. And while this is going on, the princess and leprechaun are just back there watching it and enjoying it like it's a TV show. Then the princess at that point she tells him that the
Oh,
gold is in some place called a Cargo Bay, and so he's like, "Oh shit, I got to go get my gold," and he leaves.
yeah. And that's the point in the movie where it switches to the leprechaun carrying by his gold, because up to that point he just wanted his princess back. And I
Yeah,
almost forgot about the gold aspect, because the last time we heard mention of the gold was when they showed the shrinking ray. And that's the
yeah,
last we heard about the gold. Uh
right. Yeah, and the leprechaun may not even have known, even though I guess maybe he senses his gold. Maybe not though. In some of the other films he does,
yeah.
he may not have known that they had taken the gold and put it on the ship until that point. And he's like, well, we got to go get that back now, don't we? But that's when the mitten spider wakes up, but you don't see him that good yet. And then it kind of cuts back and forth between that and the disco room thing. And what eventually happens, and this is what happened. We talked about earlier. The metalhead sergeant, he ends up accidentally trying to kill them, and he ends up with a musket gun for some reason, and he stabs it into an electrical outlet by mistake, which electrocutes him, and his head opens up, and you see the inside of his head, and there's no brain there, so he's been a robot or a cyborg the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
Big
Which is a
twist.
weird, like a weird thing to have to do with that character. But I mean, it could just simply be borrowing from the Aliens movies,
Yeah, yeah,
obviously, since
definitely.
that's what this
Yeah.
movie pays a lot of homage to. Except for this was just a little, not a little, a lot more weird, because we had this whole transvestite dance sequence.
Yeah, I mean the cyborg. I mean, you call it cyborg. Maybe it still has some human capabilities or some sort, but he does have I mean, obviously he's most of the time acting like a military person.
Mhm.
Like in the first Alien movie, you had Ian Holm playing a doctor, and you do see some human reaction to what he's doing, but it's not that. It's very believable when you find out that he is an android or a cyborg later. I think they're androids and aliens, but
And
here but here because all the weird stuff that happens, like the leprechaun's able to put him under spell and turn a military man into a woman, a guy dressed as a woman, which would have been the nightmare for this sergeant at this time, and do all these things to him. Does the leprechaun not know that he's a robot, or a
oh,
cyborg? I don't.
that's interesting. I didn't think about
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it's a gag. I mean, obviously this is a
Yeah.
gag, and it's like one of those where I guess maybe we're supposed to be surprised, but there's something weird has always been going on with that guy's head. It looks like if had that big of a plate on his head, that he probably wouldn't have made it. And especially with that dialogue earlier when they asked if he was alive, and there was like a surprise reaction. It just it goes to show you that maybe he didn't survive the attack that was talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But again, this is a really silly movie, and this is a really silly twist that's not doesn't really add up if you think about some of the parts of it that happened before it.
No, it does. It would have just been it would have been just as effective if they hadn't done it. And he just got electrocuted when he went into the box. It just seems weird that the leprechaun spent any amount of time taking over someone else and doing this to them when he has
Yeah,
not done it to
yeah,
anyone else.
yeah. It was an odd, really weird thing, and then but I think the plate coming open was something that needed to happen. But I don't like the idea of seeing just wires and nothing. It would have been cooler to see like at least some brain in there, or maybe mixed with something else, like half the brain and mixed with some wires or something, But
No, I think you would have been satisfied if it looked like something like RoboCop 2, robot
Yeah.
from RoboCop 2 when RoboCop pulls the whole thing out of the back of RoboCop 2's head and you see
Yeah.
the thing holding the brain in and he
Yeah.
smashes it on the ground. That would be
Yeah.
cool. But what we got was electrocution. He falls on the ground, the plate busts open, and there was just some cheap wires there.
Yeah. Yeah. But then something we got some more cliches coming up next. So then they hit the Leprechaun hits the self-destruct button, which is gonna blow up the thing in 20 minutes, which is how much time's left in the film. So
Yeah, but not before putting a force field around the only escape shuttle ship on the
yeah,
whole thing.
and it's a nice touch. It is a green force field, so at least there's that.
I'm
And then
like, so why doesn't this big ass ship have lots of escape pods? I'm like, oh,
yeah, yeah.
this is movie magic. I'm just
But,
gonna go with it.
right, because there's a big ship, but there's not enough people on the ship for how big it is, and then the everybody was able to fit on the space pod earlier, with the exception of there's only two other people that didn't get on it, so I guess it could carry everybody on the ship. But then that's the scene you were talking about earlier when the leprechaun and the princess start arguing, and then he
Yeah.
makes her look ugly for a minute, and before he changes her back, because she like passes out from
Well,
it.
this is where they start having their own little diatribe between each other and saying things behind each other's back, which I found hilarious. Uh,
Yeah. It's starting to.
they're like a little married couple saying things behind each other's back now.
Yeah.
They haven't even gotten married yet, and they already went from to start the movie off as she was a captive, then she became his fiance, then he went to go save his fiance, and then they've been together for a little bit of time before they start getting into their first real argument, and now they just
Yeah.
want to deal without each other. Yeah, we saw
Yeah,
the whole gamut of a relationship with these two characters.
yeah. Yeah, it's really cool too. I like the way that the shots are great too, just because it's funny when she's following him. He's like really short and she's really tall and just like walking behind him. It's just funny. I think around here is where we first see the full Mitten Spider, and he's trying to control the ship, and it's like a really awesome makeup job on that
So,
dude.
do we see it inspire? Well, okay. So at one point, Styx does separate from them to go try and get the force field turned off.
He's trying to turn the auto destruct
Auto
off.
destruct off.
Yeah,
And I thought that was the first. I thought he was the first person to see Mitten Spider. Was
yeah.
he?
I think we see Mitten Spider by himself, just trying to control the ship briefly before that,
We don't
but
see him all in his glory, though.
yeah,
We don't see him all in
yeah.
his glory. We just
He gets when the Styx goes in there and something Mitten Spider attacks him and puts him up in a web, but he's still able to
control the computer.
yeah.
He's up in the web, but he can still bend down to control the computer.
Yeah,
It's
so that's
fucking
like
hilarious.
yeah.
Oh my god.
But and then he needs Styx says he needs a password. This guy's so stupid. It's like he needs a password to stop the auto destruct, and like nobody knows what the password is, apparently. I guess Mitten Spider would have known what it was, but he's a damn spider now.
Yes.
They should have gotten at least asked him, even if he is a spider, asked him what the damn password was. But
Oh yeah, you know what? He probably would have told him he doesn't want to be destroyed either.
yeah, but he wants to kill them all because he's a spider now, and he wants to kill them all, I guess. But
Well, the funny thing is that in the air duct that they're all climbing through is all completely covered with webs. Like Mitten Spider could have climbed through those freaking air ducts. We don't.
yeah, it's too small.
I was like, so all the air ducts are covered in spider webs, but obviously he can't fit in there. So maybe he just threw his abdomen in there and just started spraying
it. Yeah, it sprayed some spider webs.
It's ridiculous. And I didn't notice. I didn't take stock in any of that when I originally saw the movie. I was laughing my ass off when I first saw Styx climbing through there, and they're filled with spider webs. So like, this is just fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
Just,
I mean, the spider webs are pretty creepy, but it's funny though. I hadn't thought about him not. I mean, in order to get him in there, he had to just spray it in there because he couldn't fit. He's freaking too big to fit in the things.
oh my god. So,
The,
Well, it is because the first time see, this is why I thought that without having seen this movie many times, when I thought that Styx had died, because when Mitten Spire comes into the room while he's on the computer, it seems like Mitten Spire would have killed him. But then
Right.
that's when we later see him just hanging up in the spire webs, and you're wondering, well, why didn't he kill him?
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah. I mean, he definitely should have killed him. That would have been a cool. I mean, I think somebody should have been killed by the Mitten Spider. Yeah. I don't necessarily want Sticks to get killed, but it's like
someone should have.
it's kind of a waste to have somebody not killed by the Mitten Spider. You know.
It is. It is hilarious though, the actor playing him, how conflicted he is as Mitten Spider in the movie. It's hilariously stupid and hilarious at the same time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the makeup for him, the physical practical makeup for creating the Mitten Spire is freaking phenomenal. With both the Spire applications and the Scorpion applications, and especially when we see them fully in the film,
Right.
see them all.
Yeah. It's a really cool makeup effect. Even though it's a little weird that he's not able to actually, well, again, he is kind of conflicted, but it's weird that the because it's a really creepy kind of thing to, get killed by that a creature like that. Really, the leprechaun should have fought him at some point. That would have been a cool. I thought that was what was going to happen.
Uh,
Yeah, but
well, well, it's funny because he calls himself a mutant in the
yeah,
film.
yeah,
He's now a mutant.
yeah.
um,
But
but then,
yeah. So yeah, that's when the cargo bay, they get into the cargo bay, and then we get a pretty cool sequence, really. When
oh,
but that's when, like, well, the leprechaun's trying to get his gold back. He finds it small and he's like flipping out, and then he fights Tina, and then he accidentally hits the ray gun, which enlarges the leprechaun and makes him giant inside of the cargo bay, which they apparently had to do. They had a miniature set. They had the regular set, and then they had the miniature set. So when they had the miniature set, they were able to have him, the Leprechaun or Warwick Davis, stand in the miniature set and made him look giant. So
yeah,
it's kind of cool the way that they did it. And a lot of the budget went into that sequence when he was giant and that miniature set.
I bet.
Yeah, and then he fights Books and Tina, trying to trying to and get the princess out of there. They end up like helping the princess. Like Books gets him out of there, gets her out of there after she wakes up.
After she wakes up.
Yeah, yeah, she
Uh,
wakes up again.
well, and this is where we go get that another call back to Alien, or Aliens, whichever one you want to try to go for, where they end up ejecting the leprechaun out of the airlock, not much of an airlock, just a cargo room, and
Yeah, yeah,
out into space. And we see the leprechaun kind of blow up a little bit, move around, and then explode. Um, which is not what the alien did, obviously, but it makes it much more fun in this movie when he does that. uh,
right. And then yeah, and then which what happens right before that too? The mitten spider gets killed. Like she goes back to the control room herself through the vents, and the mitten spider starts attacking her through the vents. Like she's walking, and he's like busting the vents trying to get to her, and she gets in there, and he's like starts doing the feed me like kind of the fly. It's almost like a feed me Seymour from Little Shop of Horrors. And then they hit him with the liquid nitrogen or nitroglycerin, and then they freeze him. And then he's like, "Help me!" Like the way the fly does
yeah,
in the earlier flies, and then they blow him up with a gun, and that's how Mitten Spider gets killed. It's kind of a cool thing. It's kind of a callback to Terminator, The Fly, and almost everything that happens in this movie has some
call
kind of
back to something else.
callback. Yeah, yeah. It's
I had almost forgotten about that. Thank you for remembering that one. I forgotten that. Tina throws the stuff on him. He freezes up, and then they kill him that way.
yeah.
Yeah,
I do think it's great when the leprechaun gets sucked out of the cargo bay, and then the princess is watching, and she's like gleefully watching. She's really
yeah.
happy about the whole thing. It's just any kind of carnage or anything, she's just like so happy about it. Yeah, it's just like she's got a very sadistic personality, and it's cool. And that's like the last time you see her in the film, and they kind of leave it like that.
Yeah.
It's funny that the princess gets to live, and she's kind of like attracted to the books guy a little bit because she's caught saying some pretty funny stuff to him as he's carrying her. Um, Well, we don't come back to her. I do
No,
like it
you know.
leaving her like just like that. And the movie does kind of end oddly because then there's a really stupid scene. They all like Books and Sticks and Tina are in the control room and they're trying to figure out the password and they keep coming up with different scenarios. And then finally it turns out to be Wizard. Like Books and Sticks somehow guess that, and then that's how they
Okay.
stop the
Yeah,
timer
well,
from blowing
I
up the
think
ship
there
with
was
like
some
two
type
seconds
of
left.
I think there was a mention of Wizard early in the film, but I had to rewatch it again because I don't recall. But it feels like there was a mention that he kept referring to himself as a wizard or some shit. I'd have to rewatch it because if
Yeah.
there isn't a reference to it, how the hell did they figure that out?
Yeah, I know. Well, it was that was it's like so stupid that they start the countdown thing. It's like the biggest cliche, and it works really well in Aliens, but it's like not even when it happens in this movie. It's like you hardly care that the countdown's happening, and then they have to find the password to stop it. It's so dumb, and then they can't figure out the password, and then they do. I don't know. It's kind of part of it though. It's just kind of one of the silly things about the film.
One of the silly things? There's
But
lots of silly things about
yeah,
this film.
yeah. But then something. This is an odd thing that happens in the scene. I do like it that she goes to Books instead of her going to him. But the three of them are standing in the room, and she suddenly just goes to Books and kisses him out of nowhere. It's very uncalled for. It's I thought it was very unnecessary. You didn't need it, but it was almost like I'm not sure why that was there. I mean, I think we need. It's nice to have romance stuff in these films, but that one that didn't seem warranted. I saw a You ever seen Under Siege with Steven Seagal?
Yeah.
Which I actually like the movie, but there's an actress in that movie that he protects most of the movie, and it's a really great combination between those two. And there's not really that much sexual stuff going on between
No.
them. And at the end, out of nowhere, they're all talking, and he makes they're all interviewing him, and he makes some remark, and suddenly reaches over there and kisses her, and it's like the most awkward in kiss scene I've ever seen in a movie. This one wasn't as awkward because she goes to him. But I was thinking in Under Siege, if she'd gone to him, it would have been fine. But it's really odd to just randomly assume you can just lean over and kiss. It's almost like when we talk about Friday the 13th, part four, when that one character is like trying to just kiss the girls on the couch and they're not into it. But I don't know. What did you think about the kiss? And I guess they're kind of like even like Sticks makes a comment. I'm like, oh, I guess I don't get anything here.
So in the 90s, I believe they made a lot of movies in which they had or they thought that even if the male and female characters in there had no chemistry, there should be some type of kiss at the end. And we got a lot of that where it just never felt real. Like the
Yeah.
characters just never got to that point where you would believe it. But they did it anyways.
Yeah.
And it seemed to just be a cliche that they did. You
It's such
mentioned
a
Under
yeah.
Siege too, and I had to look up the actress. I remember her.
Under Siege, the first Under Siege.
Yeah, Under Siege.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The funny thing is that she was her name was Erica Eleniak, and she was in
yeah,
so much stuff back in the day.
yeah,
And because I was like, oh shit, Under Siege, I haven't seen that
yeah,
movie in forever.
yeah. They got a new Arrow 4K release of that thing. It looks really good, and I really liked her in it. Actually, I thought she.
Shit, I love that movie
Yeah,
when I was a
yeah.
kid. I have not seen that movie in at least 2 decades. Dude, I don't know if I still like it or not.
No, I think it holds up. I think
Oh,
the
does it?
script. Yeah, I think the script is really good, and as far as how fast it is a Die Hard ripoff, kind of like this one's isn't. This one movie's an Alien ripoff, but it
Yeah.
does. It's one of the few that I think it does hold up, and I think especially Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey are really good in it too. But more than anything, I think the script is just like a crackerjack script. It just moves.
Okay.
But
I will. Plus, it's directed by Andrew Davis, who I actually really
yeah.
loved as a director back in the day because he did fucking The Fugitive and Chain
Oh yeah.
Reaction, and a bunch of other films.
Right. Yeah. But there's one more gag in this movie. So,
There is.
yeah, there's one more gag which is hilarious. So they do the kiss thing, and then Sticks is like, I guess I don't get any or whatever, and she's like, oh, it's okay, Sticks, maybe later, whatever. But then they look out the window of the
Oh yes, go ahead. Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
leprechaun's like hand, and some of his other body parts are outside the window, and then the hand like flicks them off.
Yeah.
It's
But
such
it's so weird because I don't know if they've ever. Well, I doubt it looks good in any version, but
no, no, no.
CGI looked pretty terrible for the hand. Just
Yeah.
flicking them off.
Yeah, but it's still like the idea of that to me is just I thought about that like the next day a few times, just how hilarious that is to have the damn hand comes and flicks them off. It's just so random, and it's such a great way to end the film, even though it leaves it basically says the film's not serious. It's like fuck you. It's a big fuck you to
Hey, fuck
everybody.
you.
Yeah, and it's like because at this point you're thinking the Leprechaun got pulled out into space, exploded. And we've seen this happen to the Leprechaun throughout the film. He just comes back. It don't matter.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, we're at an hour and 31 minutes, and this movie has to end. So I mean, I thought it was great. Even though you're right, though, it looks really trash. The way the CGI it does not hold up at all. And that could probably be redone. That was probably a pretty easy one to redo. But in
Yeah.
general, yeah,
If this movie had an audience, a big audience that enjoyed it in cult status, then redoing the CGI to make it look elite, cleaning it up would be beneficial. Kind of like, and you're gonna laugh at me when I say this, when they cleaned up the visual effects for Sharknado on its
yeah,
5th anniversary, that they gave it a theatrical release because the original special effects would not have played well on the big screen. They
right.
redid a lot of the special effects to clean them up for the big screen, and I saw it on the big screen because my older sister is absolutely one of the biggest fans of the Sharknado film series. So I took her to go see that when it came out on its 10th anniversary at the theater.
Did they release that with the new special effects in it? I wonder if there's a release of that because
I
that's
don't
pretty cool.
honestly know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I would hope that they will. If the movie is on like 4K or something, I guarantee you it would be with
yeah,
the new
yeah,
updated and clean special effects.
yeah. I'd
Uh,
like to see that.
it
But
still looks
yeah, yeah,
it purposely looks bad, but at least they cleaned them up so that when they projected it on the big screen, it didn't look like what it did when it was on the small screen because it was never made to go theatrical. So
yeah,
like there's like documentaries saying, yeah, we had to do this because we those were not designed to be on the big screen. They would look terrible and shit. So they
yeah.
had to upgrade and updo and clean up all that type stuff. And
Right, yeah, because once you get really big with something like that, you see what looks like this hand that flicks them off. You see all this pixelation in it. It's
yes,
like
yeah.
there's no detail, and it just looks like it could have been done better. Like again, I love the idea of the hand coming and flicking them off, but it does look like it could easily have been cleaned up a little bit better than it was.
Oh yeah, but you gotta remember this came out when we were still in the heyday of VHS, dude. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
right, yeah,
it was a
but
straight to video film. Like they weren't trying to shoot for the stars with CGI back then. It's
yeah,
1996. We wouldn't get them
yeah,
trying to do really crazy shit until the early 2000s. Where we talked about on this program before how shoddy the CGI was for theatrical releases. Uh, but this is 96 and it was
right.
designed to go straight to video. So if you're watching it now, you're probably looking at it, oh shit, this is a really bad CGI, but this is 30 years. Like I'm
It's
still amazed it's 30 years since this movie came out. Like,
right, and it does, yeah, no, and it does. Like the CGI is not it's used when it has to be used. It's used for the exterior shots when you see the
yes,
space shuttle and you have to understand what's going on in the space, like the space shuttle leaving from the bigger ship and coming back, and it's used in that, and it's used really badly in a couple of places with the actors, like the part where the Dolores character
Lawrence.
falls to her death, and then the part where this hand comes up and flicks them off at the end. But those, I mean, those two shots are probably more. Those two shots are more criminal, I think, than the exterior shots because I think those could have been done better,
Mm.
especially But at the same time, I'm willing to let it slide because of all the other
Leprechaun
things we
4.
talked about. Yeah, yeah.
You let it slide because it's Leprechaun 4.
I, I really think they went way too ambitious than they yeah the ambition for this movie was more ambitious than the budget.
Oh,
And so and they got a lot of interesting stuff, but some of the stuff, they didn't quite have the budget to pull off.
Uh-huh. I would say I would say that they sacrificed having any gory deaths in this film to achieve all the stuff that they did. Probably put a lot of money into practical effects for the Mitten Spider because they knew that that was going to be a huge set piece for the last act of the film.
Yeah,
And his
yeah,
makeup for the
Leprechaun.
Warwick Davis,
Yeah,
the makeup was great because he's in the whole movie.
right. Yeah, and it's yeah, and then his makeup looks, and he's even like you get a close up of his face, it looks really good. You cut into that, and that makeup holds up really well.
Yeah. So, all right. So at that time, Mr. Dave, is there anything else you can think of that we have skipped over or not touched upon while discussing Leprechaun 4?
Possibly, but I don't have any other notes. I think we got through all my
Possibly.
stuff I had. Yeah. I-
All right.
this is like kind of a Shakespearean type of experience in a couple of times during the movie.
You know what? I will agree with you on that. Unlike in the other movies, the Leprechaun character doesn't have these little asides in any of the other movies like he does here. Uh,
Right. I do like I do feel like the director gave him that stuff to because the actor Warwick Davis wanted that for to give him some more stuff to do. Warwick Davis actually gets to do it. He usually gets to do a lot, but that interaction between him and the princess
a
and
lot.
those and they're playing different characters. I also like it that the director gave that other guy that from Full Metal Jacket, that was his name, Tim Colsery, gave him an opportunity to play the sergeant like he was going to originally in Full Metal Jacket. That is a nice touch for that.
Yeah. So okay. Dave, I want to thank you for having this conversation with me on this film, Leprechaun 4 in Space. For everyone here who's listening, what we love to do is we like to take the movie and rate it between 1 and 5, 1 being poor, 5 being amazing, but we like to do something a little different by taking an object, quote, or saying out of the film to attribute to our rating. So, Dave, where on the spectrum and what object, quote, or saying would you attribute to this film?
So this movie, like we said, has a lot of bad CGI, but the budget, there's a lot of ambitions. The budget didn't quite hold up, but it does have a lot of positive stuff in it. This it's a very fast and energetic script. A lot of cliches, but they're played on purpose to kind of make fun of tropes sometimes, and a lot of like callbacks to a lot of other films. And Warwick Davis is great. Some of the other supporting cast members I really liked a lot. I'm going to give it, especially the princess, but I'm going to give it 2.5 princess boobs.
2.5 princess boobs.
Yeah, because she shows them her boobs, and so
All right. Well, I luckily we're on the same wavelength on this one. I'm gonna give it 2.5 mitten spiders.
yeah,
The thing is, I do after rewatching this film, I guarantee in '96, 30 years ago, which I still can't believe it's been 30 years ago since I saw this movie for the first time. I was not in the mood to watch this. I thought it was really stupid and dumb, and I don't think I ever watched it again, but maybe once in the last 30 years. Now, having seen all of the films in the franchise, except for the most recent one, and Warwick Davis, I believe that this film, he had a lot more fun playing this film because it wasn't confined by any of the things for the last 3 Leprechaun movies,
yeah.
and he gets these great little asides, these little mini quotes to say, like you say, that are very Shakespearean. I think he had a lot of fun with this movie, and it shows. It shows he had a lot of fun with this movie, and audiences out there who can name all the references that this film does callbacks to will laugh their asses off because they do them, and they don't do them well. They do them bad, and it's on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, it's on purpose. This film is not designed to be good. This is designed to be a bad, entertaining film. And if you go in knowing that and feeling that, and you've seen the other 3 previous Leprechaun movies, then you'll enjoy this movie. Because, to be honest with you, if you're sitting now watching Leprechaun 4, you have to have a reason to have seen the other three to get to this one. Like you
Well,
have to.
yeah. Well, just like, well, I don't know, because you see in space, and it almost immediately makes you think this one's going to be a lot different than the other ones, and it is. I mean, but that just that calling card of in space, it might draw your attention to it.
Dave, I give you. I think it gives. I think you might be giving the audience too much credit. I don't think anyone seeing the movie Leprechaun 4 in space is going to watch it unless they've seen and they know about the first three Leprechauns. Leprechaun in the Hood, maybe, maybe. But Leprechaun 4 in space. If you're watching that movie, you definitely have seen the first three, and you already know what you're getting into when you watch this movie. You may not have actually watched it if you have seen the first three, but if you are watching it, you already know what you're getting into. And I will say that I did have more fun with this one than some of the previous ones because it's in space and so freaking ridiculous to begin with. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, definitely is. So they know it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they know it's
no
ridiculous.
qualms about it. It's
Yeah,
right away. Yeah.
this is like Sharknado before Sharknado, dude.
Yeah.
So you know, Leprechaun and Sharknado, they're the same.
Yeah.
So with that, I hope you all have enjoyed our conversation about this film. I hope that you will check out our previous conversations on the first three Leprechaun films, and you also check out our other podcast episode that's going to be released today with Leprechaun in the Hood. We have a lot of fun with these films, and we hope that you too are going to have a lot of fun with our conversations. So with that, please make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe. Do that thing you do with your favorite podcast and your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. Regular episodes of this program are on Wednesdays at 8, but when we have a special themed month, those episodes come out on Monday. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, we want to wish you a great day, and please, 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 if you see a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, leave it alone. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.